Hey guys, Morgan's Maintenance. Today's video is going to be my truck loadout video. I'm going to call it the 2025 truck loadout. I've got three other parts, three different loadouts in this same exact truck at different stages where I was the facilities manager for a campus. And then I went out to work on my own. I added a camper topper, several different changes throughout the process. And this one's not going to be any different. I've got a major change as far as my back seat area. I do have a video kind of showing the process of how I developed it, putting it into place and all those kinds of things like that. But I've actually been running it for a little while now. I've kind of nailed down exactly how I like it. So that's how I'm going to show it to you today. And again, I am a general contractor and then also a commercial and residential maintenance specialist, or you might want to call somebody a handyman. So I do a ton of different things. My truck is outfitted differently every day, but I've kind of weeded it down to these are the bread and butters that stay in my truck pretty much 100% of the time. So that's what I'm going to show you in my loadout today. But let's go ahead and jump into my truck. So I'm going to start over here on the driver's side, and then I'll move over to the passenger side, and then we'll talk about the back, and then I'll put chapters in case you want to skip around. You might also hear bugs and stuff. I'm parked pretty close to my woods so that I could be in a shady spot because it's super hot out here today. But driver's side door, if I open that up, I try not to keep anything up here in the front tool-wise. I do keep my Atlas 46 folio for doing estimates, taking notes, those kinds of things like that. I grab that and take that in with me. Driver's side door, I've got Walmart sacks, Menard sacks, Kroger sacks, whatever it is, wherever you shop at, trash bags basically. Here is all my licensing, insurance, all that kind of stuff like that. And then I keep some vinyl gloves up here just in case I need to grab some real quick for something that I'm doing. Other than that, up front, and again, I'm going to be doing all this stuff one-handed. That's always the hardest part about filming this. I do keep my Vera salt and pepper shakers up here for in case I'm eating lunch. And the only other thing is there is a spot underneath of my middle seat. If I can get in here and open that, let me open it and then I'll stick the camera back in there. Right here in this spot, I have extra batteries. I have like a thermal imaging camera that hooks up to my phone. Also a gas leak detector, moisture meter, stuff like that I keep in here that I don't need that often, but I just want to have them in the truck with me. So I've got those all tucked in under my middle seat. Put that back down. Then we'll move back here to the back. If I open up that door, if we look in here, this is by far the biggest change that you're going to see in this truck loadout. And again, I have a video of kind of building this and putting it together. Not 100%, just the concept idea of it. Back seat up here, this is where I keep a magnetic mat. I also keep trash bags, gallon bags, some of my Durasacks, just something real quick to grab for a trash bag. Also have wipes down here to clean up myself or something else. I got a kneeling pad. I took the Husky and cut it down some so that it would fit in there a little bit easier underneath my middle seat. So that's everything with the front seat. Move over here to the door. Basically my tool cleaning station. I keep a can of the Super Slick stuff or Houdini. Also some microfiber cloths. I have the Wolf Box blower, and I'll put links to all these things. I'll probably actually make a Amazon store 2025 truck loadout list or something like that. That way I don't have to put 1,000 links in the bottom. But big Joey pouch in case I end up needing the pouch, but I just kind of use it to hold stuff in the door right now. Also more microfiber, and then that small Ergodyne ProFlex kneeling pad, just a quick grab in case I'm going to work like on a HVAC unit that's on a concrete pad or something like that. So main changes are these drawers right here. These go all the way through to the other side, and as I mentioned in that previous video, I can pull them out this side or pull them out the other side. So that's super nice. If somebody's parked real close to me and I can only open my door this far, I can go over to the other side and get to all the stuff that's inside my drawers right here. But before we get into those, let's talk about this area. So now that I've got my pack out turned this way, I've got the ability to hang stuff on the side of my pack out. I've got the pack out caddy. Here's all my Sharpies, Picas, pencil lead, any kind of writing utensil I keep in here. Up here I'm keeping my M12 Surge because that's my most grab power tool. The rest of them are kind of housed in one of these drawers, but then that way I don't have to get in that drawer every time just to get a drill out, so I like that being here. And then I've also got the Ink Kerma dual laser measure here for if I'm running in to estimate something. That's a quick grab as well. Couple upholstery magnets. I use those dual purpose right here. One is to throw stuff on like these bit holders, and then also I can take those off, put them on my vest, put them on my belt and use them. Irwin 25-foot tape measure with the Noster subcompact on there. fastback knife. This is basically my little headlamp that I throw on my hat the most. Racketeer stud ball, little magnet right there. And then here is my main tape measure that I grab the most, 16-foot Irwin on an ulster, hung right there. So that way I've got 2 tape measures real fast. I can grab them. So estimating wise, grab my notepad, get out, grab a tape measure, grab a dual laser measure, and then go in and check out that job. Then I also have back down here, that's my Vito Pro Pack SPMC. This is my main grab bag. I can set it anywhere in this area, but if I take a little tape clip like right here, I've got that tied onto my pack out. I can undo that. I don't know if I'll be able to do it with one hand. See if I can grab that with one hand. Pull that off, and then I can take this in and out, but that's not in the way of my drawers opening and closing if I'm using it in that way. So that's why I like to have it tucked back there. So I can pull this up. I've got a loadout for that if you want to check it out. And then back here I've got my Atlas 46 vest. This is my service call vest. I've got my DeWalt gyroscopic screwdriver in there along with several other tools. I keep my Weehaw hammer back here in the back. And then I keep here my Fluke T6 1000 Pro, my Joey nickel pouch with my Martinez square in it. I just have this one out here because if I need a square real fast, this is the one that I grab. And then this pouch is one that I use quite a bit, but I load it up with stuff out of these drawers whenever I use it. That's why there's no tools in it right now. And then my most used pouch is my MP2X. So it's got all my main tools that I like to use, my USB vessel, my USB dedicateds, or vessel dedicateds, Knipex forged wire strippers, paradiagonals, pencil, non-contact voltage tester, you know, all the main things right there. And sometimes I will come in here and I will grab my SPMC. Sometimes that will still sit there and I'll just grab this and kind of use this as my go bag as well. So that's kind of what I use there. Back down inside of here, we have this little shelf. Inside of this, I've got my M12 radio, also my M18 Rover light. Back in there, I keep a charger and then also my Muddy Buddy booties inside of a pair of shoes that I can just slip on and off if I want to. So that's everything that kind of stays in this little nook right here, and I had to build this just to get over top of these steps inside of my truck. So that's why those are there. And then after I get those back, I've got this spot here that goes all the way through as well. Inside of here, I keep my 24-inch level 5 skimming blade. This is my Milwaukee air tips as far as the hoses. And then I also keep my 24-inch digital Stabilo level all tucked inside of here. Easy to slide in and out and be able to get to those things. And they just kind of stay there. I had a spot, it was a good spot for those, so that's what stays there. Now we'll get into the pack out drawers on the driver's side. Up on top, I can hold 2 organizers before I get into hitting my roof. These are the 2 I use the most. I've got my wire nuts and then my wall anchors. Then as we move down the drawers, or I'll start down here at the bottom, again, I can open these up. The actual lock comes to right there, so there's no problem with interference with the seats. Open up the bottom one here. I've got headlamps, I've got my stud finder, I've got the Sigmund 3-plane laser, just quick grab measuring tools type things. Over here I've got the Hoopar digital angle finder, circuit breaker screamer. Here are just a bunch of electrical tools inside of this little bag that are basically stuff that you can use for finding a circuit, like little extra outlet testers or outlet things you plug in to put your leads onto. Basically that's everything that's inside of this bag. And then I've got this here so I can take a disconnect and get myself a receptacle if I need one. Then I have a small jumper. I've got a thermometer in here as well, the Klein GFCI digital tester, and then also the Kaiweets little small meter that's also a non-contact voltage tester as well. Just some extra testing equipment in case I end up needing some. I like to have that with me. Over here I've got extra pencils, extra lead, but this pencil here has my actual carbide tip in it for like scratching metal and stuff, so that's why I don't keep it with the other ones, because I've accidentally grabbed it a few times and I didn't like that. I'd get in there and it wasn't marking. And then here I've got my heads for my installation driver. I keep those in here. And then back here are just different razor blades and different types of razor blades and scrapers and all that kind of stuff right there. Going on up to the next drawer. This is my extra hand tools drawer, stuff I don't need every single day. but I like to have them on my truck for specific type stuff. So like a tough built demo hammer right here in case I need one. My crimper that goes along with my crimp connectors over there. I've got this Vera Joker that Mac Berkson sent me. I use that for some plumbing stuff. Let's see, big cobalt cutters, 10-inch Cobras, 10-inch pliers, wrench. I don't keep those in my bags because I don't need them often, but every now and then I need a little bit bigger size, so I keep those. Here are just some charging cables because I had a small spot back here in the back. Some clamps, extra pairs of pliers, screw extraction pliers. There's some engineer ones. Allen keys. Again, I don't use these very often. I usually use bits, but I like to have a set of keys in my truck as well. And then a couple more adjustable wrenches and stuff, so just in case I need something. Again, this is basically a hand tool drawer. I can pull stuff out of it, swap it with something else. If I've got room in here for certain tools, I just throw it in here, even if it's something I don't use that often. Over here I have nail punch, water key, spring punches, garbage disposal wrench, different screwdrivers for ring cameras that I got out of the packaging whenever I got them, center punches, all kinds of stuff like that. This over here is more of along the lines of electrical stuff. Other than this, the Knipex knife, angled scissors, the automatic wire strippers, screw holding screwdrivers, conduit, lock nut wrenches, extra screwdrivers, just stuff like that. Screw holding tools from the no drop tools. Again, this is basically a hand tool drawer with a variety of different stuff in it. Sometimes I'll throw stuff in here and then it just stays in here until I just go through it one day and say I probably don't need that in my truck, and then I get it out. But as long as I've got room in there, it doesn't bother me how many tools I have in there. Up here, this is all my mark out tools. So other than this here is my digital little Empire level, but everything else is pretty much a bunch of different squares, whether it's small speed squares, marking tools, angle tools. I've got the Saddle T6 from Woodpeckers there. I've got a chalk line and chalk box, a couple different tape measures. These are magnetic ones, so that I'd have some magnetic ones in case I need one. So that's kind of what stays in there. Shut that back up. Then we'll move up here to the top three. Inside this drawer, plumbing type stuff and cutters. So over here I've got plumber's putty. This one was about empty and I bought another one, so once one of these is completely gone, I'll swap over. Rigid faucet supply line tool, small tubing cutter. I've also got the little Milwaukee pipe reamer, different ratcheting cutters, bigger ones, smaller ones, the rigid one stop tool, and then over here I've got my Fiskars, my big scissors. They barely fit in that drawer, and then a bunch of different snips, you know, reds, greens, those kinds of things. Let's see if I can get that back in there. Most of these have kind of stayed the same over the course of time. Here I have putty knives, scrapers, painter's tools, the Klein flick blade with the scraper on it. Back here I've got a few different assorted sandpapers along with a hand that this takes the hook and loop, so I can, if I want to sand something by hand, I get this out, and then I just keep a couple random sandpapers of different stuff in there. Painter's tape, paint brushes, chip brushes, small roller, and then I've got the, whatever the name of this caulk gun was, the Silly Gun Compact, that fits in there for just a compact caulk gun, and then also have a belt sander, sanding pad on a block of wood right there. So that's all in here. Up here are my unopened sealants. So I've got Big Stretch, Lexel, all that kind of stuff. Over here I've got wood glue, CA glue, my caulk condoms is what I call them, caulk tips that saves caulk, and then silicone, all that kind of stuff up here in the top. And again, that's, I can see all this perfectly fine from standing out here. It's up tall, but I have no problem seeing what's in there, even though sometimes it might look like it's a little bit hard to see. So that's all those pack out drawers. Now we'll move out here to these drawers, and again, I can open these from this side, or I can get to everything that you're about to see from the passenger side as well. The only thing that's kind of new on here are these stops. I bought these, drilled some holes so that I could put those in there. That keeps the drawer from opening, but it also makes it to where I can take this out on this side and pull it out this way, but it won't let it go the other side until I pull this out from the other side. So up here are power tools and batteries. So if we open this up and look in here, I have my M18 batteries right here. I just keep an assorted amount of them. My smaller M12s, my 5.0 high outputs on my M12. Keep some Metabo batteries, also a spare for my DeWalt 8 volt. And then in here are just catch-alls. These are all things here that I use to hold my tools, whether it's a spider drill pin. I've got the extra pins in here. I've got extra nolsters that I can easily swap my belt clip around, or whatever it is I'm using for whatever the job is. And then here I've got some extra Railer hex keys. These are just random bits inside of here just to keep me from digging through other stuff, and you'll see my bit box here in a little bit, but like countersink bits and stuff like that. Also parts for like my die grinder, all that kind of stuff are in here. And then this is just an assortment of bit holders, long bits, stuff like that. That's just random stuff. Also, I keep a few of my Tapcon size SDS bits in here, again, just to save me from digging through somewhere else. So this is kind of where it's like a catch-all for just random stuff whenever I get done using it in a tool and it may not have a home. This compartment here, I've got my M12 rover light, I've got my M12 fuel oscillating tool, Metabo heat gun, Metabo triple hammer, M12 installation tool. And again, these are the ones I grab the most. I've got other power tools in my deck drawers, and then I've also got power tools that I keep in my garage and only load them up for specific jobs. M18 hammer drill and M18 surge. I mainly use this for hole saws and stuff like that, and I use this for longer run time instead of using the M12. Pull my drawer out a little bit more, and you can see here I also have the M12 die grinder with a bit in it that's mostly for strike plates and stuff like that. M12 right angle impact, M12 drill. I use this for mixing my drywall mud. And then I've got that newer M12 rotary hammer with the chisel feature on it as well. So all that stuff, basically, again, this is power tools and battery drawer. We'll push that back in, put that in there. Bottom drawer, pull that tab out, or bumper. These are my bits and different stuff. So here you can see self-tapping bits, security bits. Here is a Klein mod box that I just throw random like flip sockets and different sockets, like the Connect S adapters are in there and stuff like that. Those are there. I've also got long extensions. So here's a long extension, a small long 1/8 inch drill bit in case I need to like poke through something to see something. And then I've got a long SDS concrete bit right there too that fits alongside there. So those are here. Here I've got my Connect T-handle set. And then I've also got my 65-400K set. That's basically my quick grab socket set right there. So I use that pretty often. Get that to lock in place. Stick that back. Also, here are my oscillating tool blades, just a random amount of them of different kinds inside of there. Here's some spade bits set right there, and then I've got a bigger set back here with the spiral tips on them type thing. Here are some adapters for swivel adapters and stuff, in case I need to use those in an impact for some kind of special job. Spider drill bits. Really like those. Just some extra bits, speed out set. Here's some Milwaukee drill bits. There's some of the all-purpose Milwaukee drill bits, or the multi-material. This is jigsaw blades right here. Here are the red Milwaukee drill bits. 1/2 inch one came out, it looks like. Those are for concrete masonry. And then here are a bunch of different just random Sawzall blades in there. So again, basically these are all bits and bobs, as some of you might would call them. Here I've got my chisel set from Fast Cap. Has all the sizes in there. Those are all foldable chisels. Here is my Door Doctor hinge set. Here is my Bosch outdoor laser distance measure. And then again, here is a bigger set of spade bits right here. I typically end up grabbing these more than I end up grabbing those, but Those are in there as well. I did miss these Klein up here. These are a Klein carbide hole saw set right there. So slide that back in. Put that back in. I think that's pretty much it on the driver's side. I don't think I missed anything. So now we'll jump over to the passenger side. As we get into the passenger side, up here on the door, I've got glass cleaner, all-purpose cleaner, sponge, composite shims, wood shims, air shims. Those are just good spots for those. I kind of need them all the time just in case. Here I have my MB3 from Vito. I use that for all my filming equipment, like the camera that I'm holding right now. I have some nice shoes here in case I've got to go in somewhere. Been working all day and I got to go in somebody's office or something to give an estimate. I will throw those on. Right now I've got extra shirt and hat because it's so hot that I sweat through shirts like crazy. And then up here on the very front, underneath the seat, I've got that collapsible stool. I keep that there just to have a seat with me at all times. I also use it to set my bag and stuff on sometimes on certain jobs. Back side of the seat, I have a hook back here. I usually keep an extra hat there as well. I've got this shirt. I've got another shirt underneath that shirt with my logo on it. And then I've also got a pair of pants on that same hanger. So I basically have a whole entire change of clothes right there. So again, in case I get super dirty on a job, here I've got some extra underwear. I've got a vest. I've got some of those cut level like arm sleeves and stuff like that. And then for some reason I still have a toboggan in here. I guess I could probably take that out. I definitely won't need that anytime soon. So basically like extra clothing and stuff like that's all right here. There I've got my main drop cloth that I take into most jobs. I just slide it in and out right there. Works out great. Then if we move over to the back door on the passenger side, right now at this time of year I keep some wasp and hornet killer. And then I've got leather gloves, demo gloves, cut level 1 gloves, just some extra gloves right there in that spot. Back here I've got my zip tie holders. So I've got some zip ties in here. Looks like I need to refill my black ones. 2 Joey pouches, a smaller one and then a big Joey. These are for fasteners, so I'll come and throw fasteners, whatever I'm working on. In here, I usually keep drywall screws inside of this one all the time because I run drywall quite a bit. And then here is my pouch. It's my Occidental leather pouch back in here with my tape measure, my knife, and a pencil. That's for drywall, for flooring. That's the pouch I grab out for that kind of work. Down in here, same thing as the other side where I had my radio. Here I keep extra rags. I've also got a rain jacket. And then I've also got a pair of coveralls. So if I need to crawl space or something like that. I've also got my vacuum bags for my pack out vacuum. And then also my job site vacuum. This one's a little bit deeper than the other side. And then I've also got my Top Don that's my thread finder, but I've also got my Top Don jump starter, and then also a set of Klein ratcheting wrenches. So all these things are stuff I don't need that often. That's why they're way back in there, but they fit back in there, so that's why I keep them. I'm having to stick my hand back in there to get it. So all that stuff tucked back in there. Again, I don't need this very often. That's my jump starter. I don't need those ratcheting wrenches very often, but I like to have them, so I keep them back there. Same thing for the thread checker. Pretty rare that I use that, but it is nice to have from time to time. Then down here in this spot, that goes all the way through as well. Currently, the only thing I have in here is my Bosch digital angle finder, but this one goes all the way through to where my skimming blade, air hose, or air tip hoses for my vacuum, and then my 24-inch level is. I can put that in. That's what's on the other side in that same spot. Let me get this stuff put back up and then we'll go into these drawers. So again, these drawers are no different as far as what's in them because it's the same drawer as what I opened on the other side. Same thing as over there. I've got to take these little pins out. That makes it so I can't push it through because I've got the pin on the other side, but I can pull it out on this side. So now I've got my hammer drill and all those things here, and I pull it out farther. I can get to my batteries and all that stuff from this side. So again, if somebody is parked super close to me on that side, I can get to all my stuff from this side. And same thing on the bottom drawer as well. Take that out, you know, there's all my bits and stuff right there. So then I keep a long or a 12-inch speed square right here. That's not very easy to get in and out, and I don't need it that often, but I like to have it with me and it fit nice there. So up here at the top on the pack out, more organizers. I got my trim nails for my nailer guns, if you can read that. My crimps for my crimp connector. Different bits right here for impact bits. That's kind of like my main case. I still grab stuff from the other side more often than I get in that. This is my electrical box, my electrical organizer. And then both these two, these are the two that I was using for mounting plates previously on my other loadouts. Like this one here just has earplugs, band-aids, extra batteries, random stuff like that. And then this one here has random screws left over from jobs that I can just reach in there and grab real fast if I just need one screw for something. That's kind of just my go-to spot. Both of those things don't take up a lot. And basically if I have something left over, a small amount, that's something that I would use pretty often, these are kind of catch-alls basically is what these two are. Then if we get down into these drawers, bottom drawer are my bigger tools. This is a 2-drawer here, so pry bars, wire brushes, hammers, my Knipex Swedish pipe wrench, that bigger tool right there, so files, all the kind of bigger hand tools. This is kind of the same as my smaller hand tool drawer over there. This could be all sorts of stuff. Just if I'm using something on a job and I just want to leave it in my truck instead of putting it up in my garage and there's room in here, I basically just leave it in here. And then this one up here, I kind of want to swap to a 3-drawer that's this size drawer on the bottom and then 2 of the smaller drawers, because I kind of use this for quick grabs for maintenance type jobs, for plumbing and for electrical. So like I've got extra receptacles, some plates, some switches, 3-way switches. Here's my little inline fuses for ballast bypass, small zip ties, supply lines. So just little stuff that's left over from jobs. Here is some like thread tape. I've got O-rings, washers, plumbing grease, little springs and seats and stuff like that. Just small stuff so that if I'm in somebody's house while I'm doing other work and they say, hey, I've had this light switch that seems weird, or my faucet won't stop dripping, I like to have those things in my truck, and it's something that I'm going to run into. I'm going to need them at some point in time anyways, but I still think I could organize this better if I did a 2-drawer right here that had the 2 smaller drawers and then have my 1 bigger drawer for my bigger tools. So that might be something that I do in the future. I know I'm ultimately going to get asked, how are these things mounted in? Well, I've got the drawers mounted into this right here with the floor bases right here, the wall mount floor bases snapped in. So that's what the bottom drawers are hooked into. And then the top drawer over here, I have a actual strap running and tied into where you would tie in a child seat, like on the backside too. So, you know, these aren't going to come out very easy either. And not to say if you get in a bad enough wreck, you know, anything can happen, but more than likely, you probably got loose tools laying in your back seat or something along those lines. Odds are that tool bag would be what would hit me before any of this pack out stuff probably would. But that's the front of the cab, basically all the new stuff, including this right here. That's the main change in this video. Now let's go ahead and jump to the back. So before I get inside, in case you haven't watched the other videos, on the top up here on my ladder rack, I keep I think it is an 8-foot reach of the King combo, and I have that strapped in with Titan straps right here. Also a Titan strap back here on the back side. And then on this ladder, I also have a lock up here as well that goes around my ladder rack. And around the ladder, I've also got that same thing on my little giant extendable ladder right there, along with 2 Titan straps as well, one there and then one up here. And then this one is one that extends. So sometimes, as I've mentioned before, I will extend my ladder both directions. I can put 16-foot trim on top of that, lock it down to that ladder, so it kind of is like an extendable bed almost for the top of my truck, so that I can get some longer stuff. So I really like that about it. I'll go ahead and go around to the back and open up this before I open up the sides, so you can kind of see a front view of this. So this is the stuff that stays in my truck probably 99% of the time, and then I load up my truck for specific jobs, and I might have to take some of this stuff out, like this cart for instance. So here I've got my little giant Sure Step. That's the main ladder I grab more than anything. I get this out way more than I take any of those off the top. A Bosch leaf blower with a Milwaukee battery adapter and a Milwaukee battery. I use that to blow myself off, the job site, and my tools. Over here is a Hyper Tough cart. I get this out, it's a foldable cart. Take that in. Again, I don't keep this in my truck all the time, but as long as I've got room in here and I know I'm not going to load up a bunch of materials, I always just leave this in here because it's really nice to have if you're going from your truck into like an office or something and you need to pack a lot of tools. That makes it super nice. Here I've got the Milwaukee M18 rear handle. I just keep that in my truck all the time too. It's nice for demo work, just cutting up something real fast. I keep a battery in it. And then here I've got 2 buckets. One of them is empty all the time in case I need an empty bucket. And then this one here has my knee pads. I've just got some cheap knee pads so I can crawl in crawl spaces and get them dirty. And then I also have some extra shoes. And then I have my caulks that are open already. I don't keep those up there in the cabinet up there in the front to pack out. I actually keep those back here in the back. I also have some extra spare wire. I think I've got a water hose, a water spigot, a water spray gun inside that bucket as well, just in case I need to hook up to a hose and a customer doesn't have one that's very good or something like that. I can use that one. So those all kind of stay in that bucket. Now I'll go over here to the side and open up the side doors. Here in the side, I've got my Milwaukee pack out vacuum. Again, quick grab, pull this out. That's my main vacuum I use all the time. That's my drywall toolbox. It has all my knives, my 12-inch stainless steel pan. Other stuff is inside of there. Here is a 14-inch pan in case I'm using my bigger skimming blades and stuff like that. I also have a broom end and then a dustpan. I keep a pole in here that I can use with that. Here are my Stanley sawhorses. Really love these. Come in super handy a lot. And then here I've got my Klein drawer, my single drawer. I've got an adapter that switches to pack out. That's how I've got those stacked on top of this. And this I just keep bigger tools that I don't use that often. Like here I've got my M18 brad nailer. Also have my bigger Sawzall. Here is a shear attachment for an impact. My crown stapler, not my crown stapler, but my stapler from M12. I have the DeWalt oscillating tool with an M18 battery adapter in it. I like that for certain jobs better than the M12. And then here is my smaller M12 Sawzall as well. Again, just tools that are bulk that I don't need that often, but I want to be able to access them. That's the ones I access more often. I put in this drawer because it's easier for me to get to than it is that rolling box over there. That's one that's a little bit harder, so I put stuff that I even need less often inside of that one. But all these, again, just fit right in there. Driver's side, if I open this up, I've got my Vito Pro Pack CTLC right here. That's basically the tote I put all my stuff in to take inside of houses. Up here at the top, I'll probably have to get this down with 2 hands. We'll see. This is drywall mud. I was able to get a little bit. So I got my 5-minute mud, my 20-minute mud, fiber fuse, some spray paint primer for some spot priming, just different stuff for small patches. This is basically my small patch box. Again, if I'm going to do a big job, I will actually load up more materials than right here. But I stack that on top of here. In here are tools. Again, I don't need that often, but I want to have them with me. I have my M12 circular saw. This is my older one. I've got a metal cutting blade in that. So again, I only need that out if I'm doing something metal. I've got my M12 vacuum attachment for carpet. I've got my DeWalt Grabo with that battery adapter in it for Milwaukee. I've got my air tip that hangs onto the wall in case you're, cutting out a cutout box or something like that. And then I've also got my big mud mixing drill. Again, these are things I don't get out every single day. It's not a big deal for me to drop the drywall supplies down and get in here to it, but these are a little bit harder to get to than that of the drawer over there, because obviously that just pulls right out. So that's all inside of this. Back and behind here, I have a plunger. I've also got a sink plunger down in there that you probably can't see. This is my little ladder scaffold. I keep that back in the back as well. And then I've got my 2 DeWalt jack stands tucked back in behind here off to the side. I actually put these here because I do grab these out pretty often. Again, all this is a little bit hard to do one-handed. Let me see if I can get this back up with one hand. Then here during the summertime, up at the top, let me see if I can see it better from back here in the back. I've got my 48-inch Stabila level hung up on my top, along with some DeWalt clamps right there. And then I've got my plate level from Stabila hung up on my rack right there with some of the Jorgensen Easy Hold clamped on. And then during the summertime, I've got my M12 fan. I've got it clipped onto the Stabila level so that if I'm working somewhere and it's super hot. And that's everything on the upper part of the back of my truck. Now we'll get into the actual deck drawers. Off to the side over here, I don't think I showed you these. I've got my third hand along with the tripod, so I can use that for my level. I can also use it to hold up something, whatever I want to use a third hand for. I've got a big T-square. I've got a 48-inch level there for a straight edge. And then down here, I've got a painter's pole and then one of those gopher grab-it deals. Over here, I have a small water hose. I've got a mud mixer, and then I've also got a T-handle for water shut-off tucked back inside of there as well. Again, stuff I don't need that often, so I keep them tucked in there. This side over here, we pull out this drawer. Again, you're gonna see I've got space to grow if I want to. I don't always fill every single spot. I like to give myself room for whenever I'm going to do a job. I've got places to put stuff. M12 inflator, always good to have. A bunch of random washers inside of there. These are the parts for my third hands, like the feet and stuff like that. Then I've got a hammer back here in the back, some earmuffs, some straps, some plastic bags, also some of that shrink wrap to wrap like trim and stuff up with, and we'll put it on the top. Some red flag stuff, so just random stuff I keep back here inside these little cubbies. And then here I've got just whatever screws maybe that are on a job that I'm working. That's kind of what I throw in here out of my garage. I've been leaving these really long ones in here for just in case. Here is a pack out container with a bunch of trim screws and some decking screws and stuff. That stays in here all the time. Just for a fastener box. This is basically if I'm going in to do any kind of a woodworking task. This is a vacuum bag from Milwaukee, but I'm using it for my M12 tools. Top half up here, M12 detail sander, M12 pin nailer, and then the M12 brad nailer right there. Zip that up. Open up the bottom half. Open it up a little more. I've got my M12 planer, the older M12 jigsaw with my coping foot on it, and then that newer barrel grip jigsaw along with some jigsaw blades and stuff like that as well. So basically woodworking, I just get out this one thing and carry that in with me. That way I have it all in there. I may not need every tool, but at least it saves me a trip from coming back out. And then down inside of here, I have my 3/8 Milwaukee impact set along with my older Milwaukee 3/8 stubby and my older M12 hammer drill as well. So I'll pull these out. I've got a socket set, hammer drill, and then also my older stubby. I keep that in here. Oh, I do have the 3/8 Makita sockets. I knew I had some of those, so I did have those there. I also have a M12 high-speed ratchet in here as well. So I just have these in there mostly if I run into some kind of issue, helping somebody on the side of the road or something, change a tire, again, inflator, all this stuff, or help myself, one of the two. So that's in there. And again, I keep these back in the back because I don't really need to get them out, but every once in a while. Then we'll move over to the other drawer. This is where I keep M12 circular saw. Sometimes this just sits out here with a battery in it, but if I've got this one out, I typically just leave this one inside the drawer. I've got my Atlas Stratus vest, so this is my job site vest, the one I wear around if I'm doing like outside job site work. Extra drop cloth right here. These are M12 tools. This would be my grinder, or M12 and M18. This would be my M18 grinder, along with the M12 small little grinder. All the stuff that goes with that's right there. This is my M12 copper cutter and bandsaw right here. And then back in the back, I've got my M12 drywall gun and my roto zip. Again, these zippers are a little hard one-handed sometimes. So drywall gun, roto zip, my collated screw gun, and then other than that, back here in the back, I just keep my jack for my truck because I had to move that whenever I built those drawers up there in the front. And then last but not least, up here in the very front, I've got my main caulk gun that I get out and use. I really like this one, ETS 2000. I don't even know who it's by. I don't know if it's by Ergotech. I seem to like that one pretty good. DB Sachs, just a little extra pouch that I can grab back here to throw stuff in. Blue here are my random plumbing tools that I want in my truck, but I don't need them all the time. I put them all in a bag, so I just take this bag in with me. I'll throw it in my CTLC if I'm doing a plumbing job. Then I've got all that stuff right there. Same thing here. This is networking stuff in the black. So a toner, and then like a punch down tool, all that kind of stuff's inside of here. Orange is electrical tools. You can see a line splitter. I've got some different strippers, specialty type stuff inside of there. These are furniture movers, like the little sliders and stuff that you've got. I keep those in this bag. This one here are some extra pieces for like blowers and vacuums and stuff, just little adapters. I've got a scanning tool right here just to give me an idea of what something might be. Extra trash bags. This is a tire plugging set right here in case I need that. And then these are some extra saw blades for my circular saw, whether it's the 7 1/4 and then also the M12 too. And then some trash bags, bungee cord. Again, just kind of a catch-all spot for stuff like pouches and things like that. That's the last thing that I've got back here in the back of my truck. But there you go, guys. There is my 2025 truck loadout of my 2011 F-150 Super Cab, with my Lear camper topper, with my deck drawers, my Milwaukee pack out, my customized drawers, everything that I've got going on. This has been a probably 4 or 5 year process of getting it to this point right here. So I appreciate your feedback. Let me know in the comments below if you see something that you really like. Drop that down there, or if you see something that I could do differently, drop that in the comments below as well. But I hope you get something out of this video. Maybe there's one aspect of my entire truck and you think, that would really help me out in my line of work. Hopefully it helps in that way. But as always, you guys stay safe. Have a blessed day. I'll see you on the next video.